Oh man, I used to look at Zuma when I was a kid. I'd watch my mum play it and think, wow, what an old person's game, what a game for boomers. But here I am, at 23, having just played Zuma and Zuma's Revenge in like one sitting. Now you can't tell me that that's not a frog that's seen some shit. Now, for those of you that don't know, Zuma is a 2003 puzzle game developed by Oberon Media and published by PopCap Games, who are also known for games like Plants vs Zombies. Different coloured balls roll towards a skull on the map that you're currently playing on, and your objective is to clear all the balls before it reaches the skull. So your frog, who I believe is called Zuma after some extensive research, fires those coloured balls, and once you have 3 in a row, they destroy, and so on and so forth. That's the basic premise. Now, the game isn't for everyone, and certainly when I was younger, it wasn't for me, but I have since really grown an appreciation for this game and these kind of games. It's just relaxing, it's good fun, and it passes the time, and it just kind of, it's calming. Anyway, fast forward on about 6 years, and a sequel was developed called Zuma's Revenge. This one was actually developed by PopCap Games and was published by them at the time, but EA later bought out PopCap about 2 years after this game came out, so EA are now the publisher for it. Both Zuma and Zuma's Revenge were posted on pretty much every platform you could imagine at the time, including Windows phones, Windows computers, Xboxes, PlayStations, Nintendo DS, iOS, internet browsers. Genuinely, it was just everywhere. Gameplay for the sequel was pretty much the same, it just looked a lot nicer, it was a bit more streamlined, and also had more of a story. Well, both games have a story, which is what we're here to talk about today, because the Zuma lore, let me tell you, this is crazy. The in-game lore and the real-world lore it's truly something, it's remarkable. So we're not actually here to talk about the gameplay, because otherwise the video would be over in about 2 minutes. Also, I just want to say that Zuma has some of the best dialogue in a game that I have ever read. Anyway, so let's quickly blitz through the story of the first game. The game starts with a legend that tells of an ancient civilization that worshipped a powerful frog god. That god could control nature and bring balance to the world, and the people of the civilization built a temple in honor of the frog god, where they would offer sacrifices and hold ceremonies to appease said frog. However, a group of evil spirits appeared and began to wreak havoc on the land. The frog god was unable to stop these spirits on its own, so it chose a champion. And the champion is us, the player, the frog idol, Zuma himself. You must embark on a journey to defeat the evil spirits, which for the record are the coloured balls, and save the world. And that is what you do. Now, the reason that Zuma can fire balls from his mouth, which is a sentence I never thought I'd say out loud, is because he's also magic. So there you go, before you ask that in the comments, that's why. Anyway, so obviously you save the world, the evil spirits are stopped, and Zuma lives happily ever after, I guess? No. Wrong. This takes us to Zuma's Revenge. What is Zuma getting revenge on exactly? Who knows? So, much like how Daryl Dixon washes ashore in France with no memory in The Walking Dead, our friendly frog washes ashore on a weird island on his quest to find true love. I couldn't believe what I was reading either. Because I'm not gonna lie, when I played the game, I either skipped through the dialogue, but I don't remember seeing this come up when I started. I just started playing Zuma. I wasn't aware that he was on a Tinder date. What? So, he washes ashore looking for love, but unfortunately what he discovers is an island full of more evil spirits and large tiki head bosses that rule the land. There's even a new twist this time round. Not only can Zuma spin round and fire balls, he can now hop to a different set location on a map and spin round and fire balls. Damn. You fight your way through many levels and 6 tiki bosses, and this all leads to a very dramatic comic book twist of a showdown. Cue the boss music. Yes, that's right, the final showdown is between you and a dark version of yourself. Throughout this boss battle, the mirror version literally copies your exact movements, and then after you get it down to a certain health, it inverts its movements and goes the other way to you, so the only place you can really match it is right in the middle. Now, it's not exactly the most difficult boss fight I've ever done, but it's still a really cool concept. A very weird twist for what is essentially a very simple puzzle game. PopCap really went crazy on this one. Anyway, so after you defeat the evil Mirror Frog, Zuma hits him with his classic one-liner. And then you go through a very trippy Doctor Strange-like sequence to discover the secret of Tiki Island. And the secret is another frog. That's right, Zuma has found love.
It's enough to make a grown man cry.
And then the game ends. Credits. That is Zuma and Zuma's revenge. Now, for what is a very simple game, the plot is just so bizarre. Like, you just wouldn't think there's all this, like, crazy tiki god-like lore just sat behind this marble shooter. Anyway, the real-life story of Zuma is actually just as interesting. The story of this twisted tale begins with one man, Roy Ozaki. Roy was the CEO of a development company called Mitchell Corporation, and the Mitchell Corporation developed a game called Puzz Loop. Now, I'm sure you can tell looking at the screen there are some similarities between these two games. Puzz Loop was released in 1998. Puzz Loop outside of Japan was known as Ballistic. Anyway, it's fair to say that Zuma was pretty much a clone of Puzz Loop. Now, when our boy Roy saw this, he was not very happy at all. Anyway, Mitchell Corp eventually took PopCap and EA to court for stealing their game. Now, really, EA didn't have much to do with this because PopCap developed Zuma and Zuma's Revenge before EA ever bought them out, and really we haven't heard too much from the Zuma franchise since EA has taken over, so for pretty much the first time in history, EA isn't actually in the wrong? It just sounds disgusting saying that out loud. Anyway, as I'm sure you can tell from the fact that Zuma is still alive and kicking, the lawsuit pretty much didn't go anywhere, and Mitchell Corp has actually been defunct since late 2012. Now, this does raise a few interesting queries. Now, whilst I do sympathise with Roy and Mitchell Corp, it does really beg the question about copyright in video games, because after the Puzz Loop and Zuma scandal, the shoot balls at a moving line of balls genre, which is just the most fantastic phrase, kind of just became its own thing. So when you look at it like that, it's like the developer of the first ever FPS suing EA for Battlefield or Medal of Honor or Activision for Call of Duty, or the same applies really with racing games, like the first ever racing game developer suing Microsoft for Forza or Sony for Gran Turismo or Nintendo for Mario Kart. It's a bit of a grey area, really. I'm really interested to hear what you guys think about it, because for me, it's a weird one. It's a really weird area. Going back to games of the same genre as Puzz Loop and Zuma, the genre really started to take off with games like Luxor or Tumblebugs, and they were all essentially the same, just with a different skin and theme. I mean, one could argue that Puzz Loop was just stealing the original idea of shooting coloured balls, but just not moving, like Puzzle Bobble and games like that. I guess, in all fairness to Roy and Mitchell Corp, they did have a fair enough reason to be annoyed, because Zuma went on to be nominated for several awards like Puzzle Game of the Year and Arcade Classic of the Year, so on and so forth, and Zuma has also sold over 17 million copies, making more than $200 million, so I do understand why you would be a bit frustrated about having your initial idea used in a much more successful game. Overall, this is definitely a very large grey area for the video game market. It's really up to you guys whether or not you think that this was a genuine crime or not. The founder of PopCap, Jason Kapalka, actually even stated in an interview that he was happy with the idea of games being cloned by other developers so long as the new version added to the gameplay of the game he had copied. Now, Zuma did have its own individual features that were different to Puzz Loop, it was just the main gameplay loop was exactly the same. Anyway, please let me know what you think about this, because I'm really interested to find out everyone's opinions. Anyway, so that's all we have time for today, so thank you very much for watching. Please don't forget to like the video, subscribe, tap the bell for notifications, and as always, I will see you guys in next week's video. Bye-bye.
Oh, shit. What are you saying? What are you saying?